It was billed as the summit to save the euro, to bring an end to the confusion and turmoil. So they came. They talked and they walked. They talked some more and walked some more. Some stopped talking, and then they agreed. Well, not everyone. At the end of it, Ireland may need a new referendum, but our neighbours and major trading partner were having none of it.
Obviously, the matter of absolute clarity in respect of any referendum is a matter for the Attorney General and her legal team.
It's not easy when you're in a room with many other people who all want to press ahead, who all say, forget about your safeguards, forget about your interests, let's all just sign up to this thing together. It's sometimes the right thing to say, I'm afraid I cannot do that, it's not in our national interest.
The Marathon Summit negotiations ended with many observers wondering if Europe is still left twisting in the wind. A potential referendum was not the preferred outcome for Ireland.
If that is what we have to do to save our currency, to restore our economy, to be able as a sovereign nation to borrow again on the financial markets, and to ensure that no future government can ever again bring us to such a sorry state, then let us not be afraid to put that choice to the Irish people.
Predictably, the major European leaders, Chancellor Merkel, President Sarkozy, President Van Rompuy and José Manuel Barroso, believe yet another breakthrough has been achieved. Others are less certain. Britain's use of the veto, for the first time ever, raises profound questions about the legal status of any treaty other members try to enact.
Any treaty that those countries sign together, as they've indicated they want to do at the end of our proceedings in the early hours of this morning, it can't undercut or override the treaties of the European Union.
A new treaty is supposed to enshrine laws to impose far stricter fiscal rules and sanctions for any country breaking those rules. The author of an authoritative account of Ireland's historical negotiations with the EU shares the doubts.
The new treaty is not an EU treaty, it's intergovernmental, it's outside the EU framework. Very, very difficult to see how this treaty is actually going to work, because if the European Commission cannot supervise the Irish budget, they're going to have to create a new body to do it. If the European Court of Justice can't sanction us, who's going to sanction us? So quite honestly, I think the idea of an intergovernmental treaty is ill-conceived, and I would put a few euro or a few Irish pounds on the fact that it won't happen.
Calming financial markets and easing the pressure on the euro was the other main objective of the summit. Some €200 billion will now be given to the IMF to lend to banks to buy sovereign debt, and the ECB will cap its purchase of sovereign debt at €20 billion a month. But is that enough?
Our view is it's not enough. You need something over $1 trillion. Ultimately, as we've said before, you need a bazooka plan. What we've seen so far is almost a pea shooter, and we need a significant amount of quantitative easing to give the markets confidence. So up until now, they've always been behind the curve. We need the ECB to get ahead of the curve.
The survival of the euro will depend on the reaction of markets and rating agencies.
To be honest, putting treaties into place that will take months, if not a year, to ratify isn't going to solve the immediate issue, which is bank liquidity. And that is what the markets will be focusing on. It's the next bond auction.
Italy needs to raise over 80 billion euros in the first 2 months of 2012. It needs to raise 350 billion euros over 2012. And remember, its debt market is $1.9 trillion. So, there's a lot to play for there.
Arguably, the outcome of the summit has added to the challenges facing the government. Take the proposed financial services tax. If the City of London is now outside the scope of such a tax after Britain's veto, where does that leave Dublin's financial services centre, which employs 33,000 people?
I think what we really need now is clarity from the Taoiseach as to what the Irish position is on this proposed financial transactions tax, and how is the government going to ensure that the very successful financial services industry in Ireland is going to be protected and not put at any disadvantage compared to our UK neighbours.
And the government is also facing demands for a clear commitment that any proposed treaty change will be put to the people.
We have called on the Taoiseach to come into the Dáil. They refused to do it. We've called on a special sitting on Monday to be arranged. They refused to do that. There can be none of this happen without the express permission of the Irish people.
This means more austerity, really to continue the process of bailing out the banks and the financial markets. Therefore, it must come back to the Irish people for a referendum.
As for the fundamental objective of saving the euro, many analysts remain to be convinced. They will watch whether Standard & Poor's now proceed with widespread downgrades across the Eurozone in the days ahead.